Yehuda, Amelia, Shu, Andrea, Simona, Nate, Naomi, Tyler, and Emily are going to tell us tonight. And so without further ado, I'll turn it over to your MC, Jordan Browning.
Hi, everyone. I am delighted to be here. One of the highlights of my year is getting an email at some point in early April about taking part in the Sermon Slam. Now, my practice is to appreciate the invitation, but not necessarily to reply to that email. I hold by the idea that I should be approached 3 times before I accept being the MC of the Sermon Slam. In truth, at this point, I can look back at years of learning at this gathering. It feels like a yearly opportunity to appreciate and luxuriate in Torat Chaim, the living Torah, the Torah of our lives. I've learned about what it means to experience revelation in the dropping of a Beyonce album, and I've learned about what it means to talk about standing at Sinai from the wheelchair that gets you around. The Gemara relates a story of Ben Azai following his teacher Rabbi Akiva into the bathroom. When Ben Azai's friends hear about this, they question him, and how could you be so disrespectful as to follow him into the bathroom? And he answers, Torahi v'lilmod ani tzarich. It's Torah, and I needed to learn it. And this feels like essential wisdom for this moment. We aren't going to school or work, to synagogue or the Beit Midrash, but we are going to the bathroom, the kitchen, the living room. To experience revelation in these times from our homes through our screens is to understand that the most important learning is the Torah that happens in the small orbit of our lives, in the way we treat our roommates and family, in the way we reach out by phone or text, in the way we move from room to room. May the Torah that we learn tonight be sweet in our mouths, Torah for its own sake, Torah that maps onto the reality of this moment. Now, just to name the elephant in this Zoom room, this is a far cry from being together, but it's what we have. What I love about the Sermon Slam is seeing people lean in and listen deeply. To receive Torah sometimes means that we have to demonstrate our receptivity. Now, I've been on enough Zoom calls to know that it's hard to get that level of attention over the computer. Often I'll catch a glimpse of myself in the camera and I'll think, oh my God, was I just lobotomized? So let's practice listening actively as a group over Zoom right now. What does that look like? It means smiling, nodding. It means raising the roof if you want to raise the roof, or snapping if you want to snap. But let's spend 10 seconds, all of us, showing the people who are going to be slamming tonight that you are listening. Let's see it. All right, that's it. So I'm delighted to introduce Simona Lang, who is an infectious disease epidemiologist, our first slammer of the night, a community organizer who says she's aching to hug all of her dear ones in this time. This is her 5th year participating in the Sermon Slam, and although it is sad that we cannot be together in person for our communal Shavuot experience, one upside, she says, is being able to go to bed a little bit earlier tonight. Welcome, Simona.
Thank you, Jordan. Thank you, everyone. This is the broken-hearted epidemiologist's lament. With a heart already weary and broken, I started counting long before the Omer, when there were no sephirot to ground in, just data compounding, political confounding, no meaning to make from a virus in global motion. By the time we numbered 10 spilled drops of Kiddush wine from our Pesach cups, the case counts were astounding. In my 10-hour workdays, I was moored to purpose, but ripped open and drowning. And the ritual of diminishing survivors' joy became a practice extended, bearing intimate witness to the casualties while I tended to the Commonwealth's health professionally, artificial distance to cope as if it were separate from me, physically well, but deeply affected, none of us scot-free. The freedom we painted our doorposts for turns into blood on our hands. Only some of us making it across the sea on dry lands. Our desert trek towards revelation became a begrudging trudge up a mountain of devastation, scaling the exponential edge of a looming epidemic curve set on a trajectory of structural inequity from which we cannot easily swerve. And now that we find ourselves yet more brokenhearted staring up at the peak, what was revealed there is not the solution or sutures we seek. How quaint and misguided for Rashi to posit that we're ke'ish echad, when the more obvious logic lays bare that this virus does not equalize or make us one. What's been revealed again are the systems that only benefit some. So my heart, already cracked from an unjust world, splinters further, and raged become shards, measuring preventable deaths and disparities due to white supremacy, that ever-present guard, the same old story, cutting against those same scars. It's not the revelation we wanted after waiting this long, but the reality is clear: we're not all in this together. Rashi was wrong. Folks dying alone in nursing homes are still locked away in cages, lost jobs, lost wages, labor exploitation, obituaries filling up newspaper pages. Neighbors struggling, saddled with ever-increasing debt and need, an essential but undervalued workforce forced to choose between risky and riskier in order to feed hungry mouths and landlords and billionaires' pockets. Instead of leadership and competence, we get performative gratitude, a sky filled with useless rockets. Perhaps it's a gift then that my heart was broken many times before, past learning of fractured tenderness brought to the fore, invoked to prepare to more gracefully shatter. Because a pandemic is no time to completely fall apart. The world we build, what we do now, matters. It has been said that the Kotzker Rebbe taught, there's nothing so whole as a broken heart. And if this paradox is true, then maybe Rashi was right. Belev echad is to piece our cracked fragments together for the fight. I've seen our people gathering up strewn heart dust, our most vulnerable slivers, in creative activism, forging mutual aid networks, and of course, caregivers. We'll only receive a Torah of healing when each part has its place, each one honored distinctly, each holding space. To combat a sick culture, we need more than a single organ. If my heart shards feel whole when nestled against yours, then perhaps this is the oneness that Rashi meant. Shared grief is power too, to imagine, build, and win. After all, there is a crack in everything. That's how the light gets in.
Thank you, Simona. How do we express gratitude for all the Torah that we're going to receive tonight? It doesn't feel like we'll be able to do it the justice that it deserves, but just to like hear it and to shake our heads and to, yeah, we can give the little applause for Claudia. We can show our appreciation that way, but just like as we're showing people that we're listening, when they finish, how do we show them that the Torah has been received? It's nice to just scroll through. I'm like, I don't know, there's part of me that sees every like big Zoom call like this, we do like a Kabbalat Shabbat at TBZ, and it's like, oh, I see these people at synagogue, but I so rarely get to see them in their homes with their art on the walls or their books on the shelves, and getting to really like soak it up. And so as we're listening to each other, we can listen and we can also just look around and see like, oh, who's here? What's with you? I mean, I at some point tonight, I'm going to take you on a tour. I'm going to do some show and tell because I can't help myself. I feel like it's that desire to do a little hachnasat orchim, the idea of welcoming you in, but let's save some of that for later. I am very excited to introduce Yehuda is here. Yeah, Yehuda Mirsky. Our next slammer is a former State Department official, now a professor of Judaics and Israel Studies at Brandeis, as well as the author of Rav Kook, Mystic in a Time of Revolution. Welcome, Yehuda.
Hi, everybody. Good evening. Good evening. We've only been online together for just a few minutes, but I sort of feel the Torah coming on to all of us, and this is wonderful. And thank you, everyone. And what I wanted to do was just share with you my very favorite pasuk, my very favorite verse in the whole Tanakh, and I keep going to it years after year after year after year after year, and I always find new things in this one verse, including now with Corona. And it's from one of the prophets. It's from the prophet Micha. And Micha says in, as much as I look at it, I never remember the chapter number. Parakeh pasuk, well, I forget what pasuk it is. So I have to learn it more. Yigid lecha adam ma tov ma Adonai deresh mimcha ki masot mishpat v'ahavat chesed v'hatznea lechet im Elohecha. He has told you, you human, what is good and what God seeks from you, but to do justice and love mercy and walk in humility with your God. And I often think that the whole Torah is right in here. He's told us, like, there's this way in which like being human means like we know what we're supposed to do. There's this like fundamental human empathy and intuition and moral intuition. And the pasuk is telling us that human moral intuition is good. You want to find God in the world, find the good, look at the good in yourself, and it's good and it's there. And after all that human beings have done to themselves in history, finding the good in ourselves, sometimes I think that's the leap of faith. Believing in ourselves that we can find good in ourselves, but the pasuk is telling you it's there. And at the same time, God seeks us from us because there's something about living a moral life that is one at the same time coming out of us, but also responding to something outside of us. And most immediately, what calls us is another human being, and especially another human being in pain. And what are we supposed to do? And then so the Navi says, what does God want? Two things. Do justice, and that means rules, that means order, that means structure, that means reason. Nowadays, I think that also means science, that means statistics, that means good data, and to love abundant loving kindness. Mishpat, law, is something that's about rules and it's about boundaries, and we need rules and we need boundaries and we need a sense of what we should do and what we shouldn't do. But if that's all we have, our life is a graveyard. And we need something that pushes against the boundaries, flows against the boundaries towards another person, towards one another. We need chesed, like the pasuk in Tehillim says, Olam chesed yibaneh, the world will be built by chesed. But if all I have is chesed, then it has nowhere to go. I can have all the good intentions in the world, but if I have no order and no structure, there's nothing for me to do with it. And in this moment nowadays, this is what we're so challenged by. On the one hand, trying to have a sense of what are the structures, and at the same time, how do we give them soul? And what are our obligations? And how do we move beyond our obligations? Because if all we do is stay in our obligations, none of us will ever go anywhere, and people around us will die. And at the same time, to walk in humility. Because where's God in all of this? God is the one who's saying, yes, your moral intuitions are good. And yes, I'm seeking you to do more. And try to make over the world in your vision of justice. And try to make over the world in your vision of kindness, of chesed. But also remember, you are not God. There's things you will never understand. There's things toward which you must always bow your head. And other human beings are created in God's image, and we always have to bow our head to them. There are silences around us that our words will never pierce. There are things we will never understand. And those together, going for rules and order and structure to build a better world the same way you build a building so that it doesn't fall down. But if all you have is an empty structure with no heart, there's no life, nothing in it can grow, and you'll never build another one, and you'll never go out of your way to build one for somebody who needs one, even if they don't necessarily, quote unquote, deserve it by one somebody's lights or other. And to do so with humility, and God guarantees our moral life and guarantees our humility. And one more word about that word, tzniut. And this is something I learned from my wife, Tamar Biala, who spent a lot of years working on tzniut education in Israeli religious schools. Often the word tzniut comes to mean, how long is your sleeve length and how long is your skirt? And like tzniut becomes this word for policing bodies and policing women's bodies. But tzniut is about something else. Tzniut is about, no, it's not about erasing other people. It's stepping back in order that they can be present. In tzniut, I'm humble. My humility means I step back. I don't push myself into your face so that you can be present and live and flourish. And that's what we're doing now with social distancing. We're stepping back. We're mitztamtzemim. We're living b'tzin'ah. We're not going out the way we do. We're not expressing ourselves in public the way we do. We're not going around the way we do. And we're doing it so that other people can live. I'm staying indoors so that you can go on living. And you're somebody I don't know. Tzniut calls us to a kind of solidarity that's like a silent practice of solidarity. It's creating solidarity. It's this invisible web of solidarity that knits together people who may never meet face to face, but share the human condition in the presence of God. And that's why I think this one verse is the whole Torah. Chag Sameach, everybody.
Thank you, Yehuda. Wow. Yeah, I'm struck by this notion that in this moment of revelation, we're taught about this idea of the people encountering rules and regulations and saying, Na'aseh v'nishma, like we're gonna do it, and then we're gonna understand it. And I feel like so many of us are experiencing that in terms of following the lead of the people like Simona, the epidemiologist out there, who are telling us this is how you're supposed to behave. And we say, all right, we're going to behave that way. And like maybe later tonight, if I have it in me, I'm going to read about like why I'm doing this and the repercussions of if I can't do it. And I'm not ready for that every night. Some nights I'm like, you know what, I can't handle the nishma tonight. I can't handle the part about listening and understanding it, but the doing I'm willing to do because I believe that we are stepping back, Yehuda, that we're moving back for the sake of the other. I am really excited to introduce my friend and longtime slammer, Amelia Diamond, to speak to us tonight. Amelia is an educator and a consultant who loves Beyonce, the Red Sox, the television program The Good Place, and lives in Jamaica Plain with her dogs and partner. Amelia, this might also be your fourth or fifth time as well. So glad to have you back. Everyone give it up in your quiet, muted ways for Amelia Diamond.
Hi. Can I get a thumbs up, Simona, if my audio is working? Great. Yeah, I've done this almost every year except one year that there was a medical emergency. So it's lovely to be here with you all. When I tell people that I work with teenagers, about 80% of the time I get a face that's like, wow, followed by some version of, I could never do that because teens are really scary. in my decade plus of teaching young people, I've come to accept, acknowledge, process this reaction. Teens in their natural habitat can seem like they are indeed scary. They have these bodies they're still figuring out. There's hormones going all over the place. The pressure to be part of a group while also making your own identity, and all the while they're developing a unique voice. And they're often testing it on authority figures or parents. If you've ever raised a teenager, sorry. But I love them. They're funny, they're weird, they love pop culture, and they're fiercely loyal to their friends. They're complicated, yes, and they're full of really big feelings. They're still filling out how to express themselves. And for some of them, that means a lot of talking and a lot of questioning, a lot of arguing. For others, it means staying quiet, listening, writing. Either way, teens are in this really fun, juicy space of growth and development. They have big ideas and a lot less baggage than grown-ups when it comes to expressing and exploring them. I actually find them to be the easiest students. It's why I love being in a room with them every week at Temple Israel Boston or Boston Workers Circle or wherever else I am fortunate enough to be able to be with young people. I love to be with them every week to talk about the important stuff like racial justice or feminism or the best new shows on Netflix. They are my lifeline to what's cool. They were on TikTok before I was, for sure. They're also my moral compass because they're ever vigilant and trying out those big ideas. So in mid-March, when it became a reality that I would no longer be able to see them in person on a weekly basis, I felt that deep sense of loss. There would be no ability to celebrate my seniors in person, kids who I started with in 8th grade, graduating this year. There would be no more casual conversations between classes or on the way out the door. They have become the boxes on the screen, like all of us have, as we're attempting to piece together some normalcy. At first, I noticed very little change in most of the teens' affects. They seem fine to move online. They're very comfortable there. Maybe it kind of felt like an extended school vacation. Online schooling hadn't gotten set up yet. They would pop in on Zoom to talk about their latest movie picks or how their siblings were driving them nuts. And then as we stretched into month 3 and proms and graduations and summer camps and internships, and maybe fall of my freshman year of college got canceled, I started to see less of my people in their little boxes. Not because they didn't care enough to come, but because I think somehow things hit them in reverse. I know I felt an immediate jolt of loss, where I think theirs was a slower burn. But some of them kept showing up. And they told me how depressed they were, how depressed they are. And they shared how terrible it is to do online learning. And they continue to wrestle with big ideas. We talked about COVID racial tracing data, and they were excited to dig into public health. So hopefully we have some Simona kind of acolytes coming down the pike. They reminded me that the connection looks different for everyone. Sometimes they would just shoot a text saying, I'm too overwhelmed to get on right now. And that can be just as good as showing up to talk about gender, and that retreating during this moment is actually okay. Teens, by developmental stage, prioritize the self, not in a selfish way, but as a way to stay safe. And it's a lesson I'm really trying to carry with me. I'll wrap with this. One of the classes I taught this trimester was a tiny little group of 9th and 10th graders who were doing a poetry class. It was full of a lot of tearjerkers. But one week I asked them to write prayers for the essential workers of our time. And if this isn't emotional intelligence, depth, and grace, I don't know what is. So this is Essentials by Isa. To the people who work for the MBTA, to the workers who come bring our mail every day, to the grocery store workers who deal with the hoarders, to delivery boys keeping track of their orders, to the power line workers who hook up our cables, to farmers who make sure their food hits our tables. We know you risk lives, not by choice, but by force. So we pray you keep following the rules we've enforced. We hope after work you stay healthy and safe, and we thank you for working through fear to be brave. As my mother always says, the kids are all right. You should listen to them now and always. Thank you.
Beautiful, Amelia. Thank you for sharing that poem. Thank you for sharing the like joy of working with young people. Yeah, give it up in the comments. I'm liking seeing this, like as people are slamming, seeing some of these comments come in is really a nice and interactive way of showing your appreciation for what's happening. Yeah, there it is. I want to push us forward and introduce Nate Vaughn, Southern by birth. Me too. I'm from Louisiana. Where are you from, Nate? New England by training. Nate Vaughn is a sometime Jewish professional, sometime podcast producer with a passion for actively building diverse Jewish community. Give it up over muted Zoom for Nate Vaughn.
Hi, everyone. I want to dedicate this to a friend of mine, Charles, who would have been 34 today. It's his birthday. I've been really itching to go camping recently. And when I think of camping in front of a mountain with a large group of people like the Israelites did for a special purpose, I think of hula hoops and hammocks and ice cold hard cider. I think of friends that I've made and never see again in the tent cities that surround music festivals that I love to go to. There's a temporariness about these communities. They spring up out of nowhere, populated by all sorts of people, and they disappear just as quickly. And that temporary nature gives people a sense of permission to behave differently than they normally might, for good and for bad. I have to imagine that the scene at the base of Mount Sinai, as the Israelites encamped together as one people with one heart, felt like an immense festival village. What makes this encampment unique from the numerous camps that Israelites build and break down on their journey to Canaan is the experience of Sinai itself. When I think of Moses presenting two separate tablets of the law, I think of multi-night stands by festival headliners, each night similar and yet distinct. And when I think of staying up all night, studying with my community, followed by Shacharit, I think of dancing all night at the silent disco, followed by sunrise yoga with anyone who's still awake. Our experience at Sinai wasn't all positive though. It had its ups and downs, its out of control and even violent moments. After smashing the first set of tablets, Moses organized a group of followers to root out and kill anyone involved in the golden calf. Violence is a part of music festivals too, unfortunately. From the 1969 at Altamont Speedway Free Festival, when violence broke out during the Rolling Stones set, to Woodstock 99, an attempt to recreate the iconic festival that devolved into violence, where a candlelit vigil during the Red Hot Chili Peppers set, organized by the Center to Prevent Youth Violence, resulted in bonfires and rioting. But still, when I think of Moses smashing the first tablets in anger, I think of Jimi Hendrix lighting his guitar on fire in the 1967 Monterey Pop Festival. In a later review of his performance that accompanied a 1986 release, Rolling Stone said, with the rainbow shriek of his flaming Stratocaster at the 1967 Monterey International Pop Festival, Jimi Hendrix dramatically announced the arrival of the new Aquarian age of peace, love, and spiritual aspiration. The smashing of the tablets was a seminal moment in our people's story, one that also heralded a new era of Jewish life. Without diminishing the violence that occurred following the golden calf, the experience of being at Sinai, with all its ups and downs, deepened our relationship with each other, with God, and with the Torah. That's why we seek to relive it every year, staying up late to physically experience a moment our souls have already witnessed. I've been to a lot of music festivals over the years, and I've celebrated Shavuot many times, but I've never been to a festival that was the same every year, and I've never been to a Tikkun that was the same every year. Every year it's different, And like watching an artist headline for the second night, it's the differences that keep me coming back. Yes, the degree of difference is magnified this year, and that changes how we all experience Shavuot, but it doesn't have to diminish our experience of the holiday. In the end, I can't help but think of Heschel, who said, "Everything is phenomenal, everything is incredible, never treat life casually. To be spiritual is to be amazed." May this year, amidst all the chaos, also see the dawning of a new age of casual peace, phenomenal love, and spiritual amazement. Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach. Wow, beautiful. Nate, I love Coachella. Coachella is Sinai. What an image. Camped at the bottom of the mountain, hula hooping, lightning, thunder, pyrotechnics, all of it. I'm a bit of I have to admit that another sucker in this social distancing era. We gave in recently and have adopted a hashtag quarantine pet because why wouldn't we want another thing to take care of? Yet, the desire for companionship is strong. So without further ado, let me see if I can get him up here. This is our starter. Yay. Hi, everyone. His name is King Arthur. It's good to have you meet him. He's a sweet little guy, right? He eats a couple tablespoons of flour each day, but he's already given us so much joy and affection. I'll say the same. I am a big-time fermenter, and yet it took this moment for me to start making sourdough regularly. And the strange thing about maintaining a sourdough start is the idea of there being discard every time you activate your starter. There's this sourdough start that you use in creating the dough, and then there's the stuff that got activated, but you don't need it. Fermenty, it's yeasty, it's sweet. I feel like calling these leftovers discard is a bit of a diminishment. So the key for me has been finding a way of using the discard. Frying a single sourdough pancake with za'atar on the top of it, making rosemary olive oil sourdough crackers. And now here's the point where I'm going to draw the parallel between sourdough and Torah. Each brimming with life, full of potential, ancient in its formulation. Perhaps each time we activate Torah, there's a little bit of discard as well. The Midrash we didn't mention, the Rashi that gets left on the cutting room floor. And what I want to challenge us to do as we live in a relationship to Torah this year is to apply that same principle of bal tashchit, of not wasting anything. And anytime we encounter Torah that maybe we're not going to use it, it's like the discard, the part that didn't make it in, we should make something small and delicious with it. A little bite-sized serving, a little wisdom, a little Torah, never discarding it, but repurposing it and nourishing ourselves and our friends and our communities with it. So I am very excited to have Andrea Kamens back as a slammer. Andrea hails from congregation Kadima Toras Moshe and Minyan Kol Rina. You see, I switched there between my Ashkenaz pronunciation of Kadima Toras Moshe and Minyan Kol Rina. I don't know, maybe I should have said Kol Rina, but I went back and forth. Andrea is a storyteller, a teacher, doing all sorts of awesome work in the world, and I'm so glad that she's here with us again tonight.
Thank you. This is actually for the students and the teachers. A lot of the words came from kids and parents in a chat window during a Zman Rishon morning activity run by Mora Devorah Rohr, at the Sunday school where we both teach. And I admit I almost didn't bring the requested materials because I'm not exactly an art project on Zoom kind of person. But now guess I'm an everything on Zoom kind of person. I did the paper ripping activity, and then I did word ripping with the chat. I rearranged, I added a beginning and an ending, but I want to give credit where credit is due. So when I have quotes directly from the chat window, I'm going to use air quotes. And when my own words are embedded in that part, I'm going to use air parentheses, which is a thing now. The title comes from a wonderful Hebrew song that Mora Devora played, Ani Nishar Ani. Ani Nishar Ani, I remain me. Zoom lesson, Sunday school, April 2020. We ripped our squares in quarantine in our own homes on Sunday morning Zoom, opened the chat and changed and didn't before each other's eyes. A paper square, colored, torn, reassembled. A triangle, heart, snow, the beach, a flower, ocean waves, a sky in fire, boulders, a sunset, a mountain, because it feels like we're climbing one. Dog! So many wishing for pets or holding theirs on camera, wiggling away. Dog in all caps, exclamation point. A bird, two people holding hands, ways of flying. A landscape, a tree and a car and a boat on top of the car. An electric bus station. Abby is making a person. All of us are making a person. Look, I made some kind of enchanted tree, a kite, elephant, windmill, a fiddlehead fern, a hillside for Almog, and a doghouse for Libby. We made a boat. We miss you, Mora. Teacher here reading the chat. We miss you. So still ripping, reassembling, taking pictures and emailing them out to each other long past time for coloring. We're still coloring together. We are making a person from a square.
Beautiful. Give it up for Andrea in your windows. Say, give the thumbs up, the applause, any sign of appreciation for another teacher bringing in the voices of students. When we tell me that yoter mikulam, that like from our students, you guys just heard some music going down my street. From our students, we learn the most, and it's like coming up again and again tonight, and that's not surprising. I want to should we do like a seventh? We're like, more than halfway home, but I want to do like a seventh inning stretch, some movement. We're a wandering people. If people need to like get up and grab a cup of tea or a glass of wine or whatever it is, this is a casual affair. We're at home. That is the plus side of all of this. So I'm going to get a glass of wine in a second, but before that, I want to introduce Shu Khan. Shu is a second-time sermon slammer who's told a couple of stories in small venues, a longtime KI member, and in her other life, an economics professor at BU, because that's what we do in our other lives. Give it up for Shu.
Can you believe it's been less than 3 months since this all started happening? Our lives were normal 3 months ago. We could go to stores for food. Our kids went to school during the day. We could get away from our husbands if we wanted to. We slept in our regular beds. We didn't even have to dig latrines all the time. And then suddenly everything was different. We had some warning over the past year. Towards the end though, Goshen was the place to be. No hail, no flies, no boils, no darkness, nothing. Everything was great. But one night, Moshe told us we had to leave. Now, you know, between me and you, it's hard enough to get your family together to leave quickly. Imagine getting more than 600,000 people together to leave quickly. It was a miracle. And in fact, that was one of the many miracles Moshe did. Yeah, he was doing miracles before, but these were miracles for us. So anyway, we went. I think it was the wrong way, but this cloud in front of us was kind of going in 500 amot, turn left. So we turned left. And then we got to the sea, which seemed impassable. Now, I'm not shy. I went to Moshe and I said, Moshe, what? We couldn't die in Egypt? But here's the thing, Moshe's really magic. Suddenly we could walk through the sea. And we were walking and we got thirsty because it was the desert and it was only yucky water. And I said to Moshe, do you realize we have nothing to drink? What? We couldn't die in Egypt? So Moshe threw a tree in the water and suddenly we had water. I mean, he is pretty amazing. And then we were hungry. We hadn't bought food for that many days. So I went to Moshe. I'm not too shy. I went to Moshe and I said, Moshe, we have nothing to eat. We're going to die of starvation. We couldn't die in Egypt. And Moshe said, okay. And suddenly the next day there was food on the ground. Now, I don't know how it got there. It was the same stuff every day, but it was food. We kept going, no more water. We got thirsty. I complained, yada, yada, yada. He did it again. Yeah, I don't know. He hit a rock or something. We had water again. And then these big thugs came from nowhere and they wanted to fight us. Amalek, I think their name was. And Moshe lifted his hands and we fought them and we won. Now, I have to say that what happened next was a little unbelievable. I mean, when I look back at it, I think it really didn't happen, did it? Because we got to this mountain and we were waiting for something special and then there was suddenly lightning and thunder and horrible noise. And the mountain was smoking and moving and the whole mountain was above us. Oh. And then, I can't tell you really what happened, but we were all so scared. So I said, Moshe, we're too scared for this. Whatever has to happen, you take care of it. We believe you. So Moshe said, fine. And he took care of it. The mountain went back. He gave us part of God's message and then said, I'm going up the mountain to get the rest. I'll be back in 40 days. Now, it is 40 days later. He's not here. Moshe got us out of Egypt through the sea, through the thirst, through the hunger, through the battle, through a scary mountain on fire. But frankly, I don't know what to do without him. I'm scared. In Egypt, you know, they had other gods, statue gods. So if Moshe's not coming back, maybe we need to make another god, a statue god. What do you think?
Ew, wow. Somehow I didn't see it coming. How long have we been doing this? And yet you took us there. Yeah, it's an amazing thing counting time in this moment. And you're right, like what would it mean to like get that many people moving? I feel like inertia is always a strong force, but during COVID-19 it's like particularly strong. I try to get my like kids out of the house on like a beautiful day and it's like, we don't want to go anywhere. And then finally, like I wrangle everyone and we get out and we're in the car and we arrive at the Blue Hills or Franklin Park or the Arboretum. And then they're like, oh, we don't want to get out of the car. And I'm like, God, we can't, like every step of the way is difficult. Every step feels like there's like some resistance to to like moving, and then there's this collective moan when we get to the arboretum, like, oh, we're gonna walk, that's it, like we're gonna just take a walk. And I'm like trying my best like to raise wandering Jews. Like I want them to enjoy an amble, I want them to enjoy a stroll. And then when we're out, it's like the woods beckon and there's eyes open and there's radical amazement, like Nate talked about, but a sense of like real wonder that takes over, and we can walk at the slowest pace. And I've been reading this book. You can't read it, it's probably backwards to you guys. It's called How to Be Idle. It's essential quarantine reading. And the author says the act of ambling is an act of revolt. It is a statement against bourgeois values, against goal-centered living, busyness, bustle, toil, and trouble. For the creative spirit, the act of walking harmonizes work and play. So let's keep walking. Let's keep journeying on. I am grabbing my sheet to see where I am. And here we are. It is a pleasure to introduce Tyler and Emily. Emily Selman and Tyler Dratch are newly married since last Shavuot and have been spending quarantine making elaborate recipes, reading out loud, and most importantly, learning TikTok dances. Welcome, Emily and Tyler.
There was a time not so long ago when Moses and God would speak face to face. As the Torah was being transmitted, they quickly realized that in order for Moses to not miss one syllable of God's recitation, they would need to sit incredibly close. They spent their days immersed in the back and forth of complex Talmudic argument, gazing into each other's eyes and examining each other's faces. They sat so very close, like a baseball manager about to scream at an umpire about to blow a call. They were so intensely focused on each other's faces, each could see the faint lines that would develop in each other's foreheads when they were trying to understand a particularly difficult section of the Torah. The learning was a boisterous affair, but occasionally they would sit quietly, looking into the face of the other, searching for a hint at the answer. There was a lingering silence, and then suddenly God's mouth would tilt upward, a slight smile indicating that Moses had finally understood. There was nothing, and then there was the light of insight. It was very good. Moses had always known what it felt like to be seen. As a baby, his sister watched him float down the Nile River. And growing up, he knew the scrutiny that came with being raised in a political family. For God, the feeling of being watched was novel. To see Moses' eyes penetrate directly into God's soul, God could not help but become emotional. So long ago, God had contracted to make space for a world to come into being. God quietly observed as humans struggled to make that world their home. God looked on like an anxious new parent as the Israelites were born through the sea. And now, to be able to sit face to face with that man Moses was almost too much to bear. Weeks after his 40-day encounter with God, Moses was awakened by a sliver of light that seeped through the flap of his tent. After many weeks of anxiety, fear, and anger, Moses had begun to lose track of the days. When was evening? When was morning? In the time of the plague, few moments felt normal. Okay, let's see here. Which email did I leave that meeting link in? Oh, here it is. Okay, good. Got to put a waiting room in. Very sensible.
Hello, Moses? Can you hear me okay?
Hi, yes, God, I see you. I hear you. You don't have to yell. And for some reason, the camera's tilted where I can just see like the top of your head and one of your eyes. So you're just supposed to look into it normally.
You would think it would be a little bit easier for me to use this technology. I mean, the Apple computer, a little on the nose, don't you think?
God, when can I come back to visit you? It's been weeks. Nothing made me happier than when we debated the minimum height of a sukkah or the status of forbidden mixtures. When we sat together, I knew that I was doing something that had meaning, that had purpose. Right now, everything feels so empty.
Oh, Moses, have you not heard? We can't be face to face like that again. Anyone who sees my face within 6 feet will surely die.
Are you sure about that? I mean, you can't always trust where you get your news. I know everyone's saying this Dr. Fauci is a god, but you are God. Oh, God, you have to unmute yourself.
Oh, sorry, Moses, it's true. No one can see my face and live. If we were to get together, we would probably both have to wear face masks. You couldn't see my face anyway. But even so, it's probably best that you stay there and I work from here.
God, this is not how we planned this journey. You told me that you would be with me every step of the way. You told me you would help me lead these people.
And of course, I still will.
But how can I from here, with the spotty Wi-Fi? When I try to speak to the Israelites from down here, they're always opening up other web browsers. They're turning off their cameras, and I have no idea if they're still there. I feel like I'm just shouting into a void.
I shouted into the void and created a whole new world. Who knows what will happen when you shout?
But God, how will we know what is right if we're not close to you? We've only survived because we've been near to you.
Did I stand before Pharaoh? Did I enter the water before it split? You have everything you need to lead these people. And the truth is, you will succeed or fail based on how well you work with each other, how well you can see each other and realize that your fates are eternally intertwined. The truth is, I do not control this particular plague. There is a lot I do not control. Do you really think I'd have half of the shows on the Bravo TV network if I was in charge? I don't really control who will live and who will die. Why do you all chant that every year? And as painful as it is for me to say, it is impossible that no person will ever be able to look directly into my eyes ever again.
But your glory, I've never seen anything quite like it. How will I know you without your glory? What is our relationship without seeing each other?
You will not be able to see my face, but here's what I will do. I will leave my computer logged in with the camera turned off. You can come here and sit with me in prayer and in quiet. You can sing to me, learn with me. I would love for you to show me the ways you improve the world.
How will we know you're listening? I'm not going to be able to hear you as clearly as I did before. What if I miss a critical detail?
It will be different now. You have each other to figure it out. I promise even when I turn my camera off, I will be with you. I will be laughing and crying and watching you tend and till my world.
Suddenly, the screen froze. Moses and God had been temporarily disconnected. Moses left the tent of meeting, and the world felt dark. He knew that he would no longer be able to look directly into God's eyes, but rather he would get to see exactly what God saw through God's own camera. Moses began to weep, this time tears of joy, because he knew that everything was going to be okay.
I'm unmuted, but I'm still doing the universal yes. Shikoach. Beautiful. We don't have that much time together, and I promised some show and tell. So let's. I mean, I'm doing. I can do it, but we can all. I know, Sarah, that this is ASL for applauding, but I also know as a TVZ member, this is just part of my life. This is my tofu press. I'm gonna make my own tofu. I'm like taking it to the next level, hippie rabbi. It's like not only am I cooking tofu, but I'm making it with tofu coagulant that I have. If anyone wants to stop by my porch, I'll leave some out for you. I don't know what to say. We have one amazing slammer left. I'm so excited for Naomi to bring it home. Let's do it. Naomi Gertland is a parent, a crossword enthusiast, a challah baker, and a rabbinical student at Hebrew College. Give it up for Naomi.
It's good to be with you tonight. The morning I resumed my customary, not customary prayer life with my community at Hebrew College. It was surreal, staring at my friends on a skittering screen, microphone on mute, reciting the words we say day by day, but with feelings I've never had before. So much about this territory is strange and unsettling. The noisy quiet of studying while the children are knocking around in the kitchen, the ghost town feeling of my neighborhood as I'm out walking, the empty grocery shelves, the feeling of having so much time and none at all. There are moments that feel almost impossibly heavy, and moments when I feel like I could blow away with the wind, like chaff. And yet, with all the swirl around me, I've also experienced intense feelings of connection and community. People I don't know are banding together to support one another in creative ways, reorganizing the food pantry, shopping for each other, offering online classes for people of all ages suddenly stuck at home. And people I do know have gone out of their way to say kind things to me, to encourage me that I'm on my right path, even as the road has hit a twist. Every morning, the liturgy invites us anew to imitate the angels by taking on Ol Malchut Shamayim, the yoke of God's sovereignty. At Hebrew College, we have a custom of looking around at one another at that moment and making eye contact. It is one of the most meaningful parts of my tefillah, and returning to those people that day, at that moment, even quivering on a screen, felt like coming home, although in fact, I was home. And it struck me that the image of a yoke is perfect for this. A yoke holds us apart as it holds us together, mandating space and unity at once. Caring for one another during this crisis demands that we cultivate emotional closeness while maintaining physical space. Indeed, we maintain that physical space as a way of caring for each other. The yoke joins us together, and as we're bound together, shoulder to shoulder, this yoke, the yoke of God's sovereignty, also binds us vertically. It reminds us that while we are working side by side, God is holding us together. Thank you very much.
Naomi, thank you. Wow, what a gift. With each of you, just a total gift to hear these divrei Torah, really, like in the full sense of the word, these like words of Torah that you've offered tonight. I'm grateful for, my small role of emceeing and just getting to like bear witness to it. I was at a bar mitzvah recently when the Torah was taken from the Ark, and I watched as the generations of the family came up onto the bima and lined up for the physical passing of tradition, lador vador, from generation to generation. And I don't want to disparage this piece of choreography from the modern B'nai Mitzvah ritual. Often I find it very moving, but there's some part of me that also sees it as an intergenerational game of hot potato. It's like the grandparents are like, I don't know what to do with this. You take it. And the parents are like, me? What are we supposed to do with the Torah? Just give it to the kid. And I think what we're meant to do to the Torah is not pass it, but to grasp onto it. I think in this moment of so much anxiety, like we think about the scope of our lives and who we want to be. And one of the reasons I want to be like an old person is so that some grandkid or great grandkid of mine can have a bat mitzvah. And when the Torah comes to me, I can refuse to pass it. I can hug it and kiss it and not let it go. And that's my hope for us tonight, is that the Torah we learned won't be passed quickly, but that we'll hold on to it and savor it. May we turn it over and over again, and may we recognize that everything is in it. Wishing you all Shavuot of meaning and learning and deep relationship to these texts that have come to life tonight. I'm excited to pass things back on to Stephanie, who I owe like so much gratitude to for all the work she puts into the Tikkun every year. Thank you.
Thanks, Jordan. Really, thanks so much to Jordan for answering my 7th or 11th email, or I think I just stopped waiting for him to answer and started copying him on all the emails. It worked out great. We do really appreciate it. And thank you especially to all of the slammers tonight who are amazing. We literally could not do this without you. And we are all richer for it. So thank you so much. I also want to thank the planning committee, Rabbi Tiferet Birnbaum, Rabbi Elizabeth Bonnie Cohen, Sari Fine, Andy Halpert, Rabbi Claudia Kryman, Rabbi Jim Morgan, and Rabbi Becky Silverstein. It's really one of my most favorite committees to be on, despite the fact that there are a lot of rabbis, which is not usually my favorite thing, no offense. Before you go, I wanted to make sure that you know about KI's event that has started about a few minutes ago with Yossi Klein Halevi live from Jerusalem. I put that Zoom link in the chat, and you can also access it from their website at kehilathisrael.org. So hopefully some of you can head over there now. And if you don't want to head over there and you want to stay and try and chat with 146 of your best friends, then we're going to unmute everyone, and you're welcome to say hello and goodbye. And if we have a lot of people, maybe we'll break out into smaller spaces. So thank you, and Chag Sameach.
Yeah.
Man.
Yasha Kol Chachim.
Thank you all.
I think it's a California school. She just got, well, now that she's lived in Boston for more than a year, she can get in-state tuition.
What are you pointing to? Yes, Jenny's there. I know we're unmuted.
So nice to get to see some of my neighbors.
Today.
Know how to get out of it.
I hope everybody enjoyed watching Devora Fed drinking. It felt like a very Shavuot appropriate activity.
This wasn't even all of them. We filled more yesterday.
Good job.
Cindy, some of them fell apart.
That's okay. Those two.
Where is the link?
In the chat, I'll put it in.
Where is the link?
Jordan, show us what we said. Just show and tell. More show and tell, Jordan.
No.
Let me see what we.
If they unmuted everyone. I'm trying to get to
Jordan, you had a lot of very disappointed folks who expected a puppy.
I'm trying to get
What
to
did I have?
On Halevi thing.
We wanted a puppy.
Karen,
Wanted us.
everyone wanted a puppy, but you got a
me out of this
sourdough starter. I feel like it
the
should
red
You're not
just
getting a
morph into a Rav Cook, and I should make something.
I'm
Can you
trying
show us
to.
where the link is?
Go to the chat, and the link is in the chat.
If you click,
Chat. I don't see it.
at the bottom of your screen is the chat.
Trying to.
I see
Hi,
it.
Mom.
I'm in the chat.
So click on the chat and you'll see it. It should pop up.
There.
Have to establish a password?
Thank you, Stephanie.
The chat is very long. There's a.
It's at the last thing. Just scroll all the way to the end. Or you can just go to kahilithisrael.org, the website, and you'll find it.
Look at this. That's 7 pounds of soybeans.
Amazing. What are you,
Let's see.
what are you going to do with it, Jordan?
I'm gonna make tofu, Claudia,
Oh, right.
and miso, and everything else.
We're not making tofu. I'm not that crazy.
I have 5 pounds of cocoa powder from Ghirardelli, and I'm making dark chocolate at home with coconut oil.
That's great. You
Tofu is surprisingly easy.
Teenage
We did it
teenagers,
at
you can all
Tikkun
take in.
It was like shockingly easy.
I want to trade you some tofu.
The chocolate.
We can do a tofu for chocolate swap.
I think that's a good idea. Claudia asked me to make blintzes, but I don't like sweet cheese. I want to make fondue.
So with you, sweet cheese is the worst.
I wanted a video of Jordan making blintzes to send it to the shul, but he said, no, I'll make enchiladas. Instead, I had Noah make a video from the farm at Gan Academy.
Okay.
And I called 5 people to cook on video, and I did not get
What
a
about
yes.
Eben? I thought Eben makes blintzes.
I'll make them tomorrow. Too early to make them 2 days in advance.
I know.
Well, all right, everyone.
Thanks,
Bye,
Jordan.
Very
Thanks for great hosting.
good, everybody.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, Rafa.
Oh,
I
yeah,
gotta
I'm
go to bed.
going to be ending the meeting. Anybody has a last word? Stephanie, a last word?
No?
Thank you, Stephanie.
Chag Sameach.
Chag Sameach.
Bye.
L'chaim, Chag Sameach.